This video is sponsored by Hobbynut Models. For models, paints, detail parts, and more, check out Hobbynut Models. The link is down in the video description below. Hey, I'm John. Welcome to Mr. G's Workbench. Part 2 and the conclusion of our build of Zvezda's Typhoon-K in 1/35 scale. We're going to get it the assembly completed today. We'll get the wheels on, we'll get it painted up, we'll do some light weathering on it because my armor weathering is lacking at this point, and I need to improve on it. So we'll do a project somewhere down the line where I can experiment a little more. So we'll get that done. Hopefully at the end it looks like a Typhoon-K, and that'll be mission accomplished. Like to thank Hobbynut Models for providing the kit for this build, as well as the Quinta 3D instrument panels that were used in the dashboard and in the crew cabin. Thank you, Mark, for your support. Very happy to have Hobbynut Models as a sponsor for the channel. Be sure to check out Hobbynut Models. There's a link down in the description below this video. Be sure to take a look. Mark can take care of most of your plastic modeling needs in one place, so don't forget to take a look, all right? So that being said, thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel. We've passed 4,100. Thank you all very much. And a special thank you to my channel member family. That's their names going up the screen right there. Thank you guys for your additional support. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. It'll take you to a page. It'll give you all the information you need. It's $1.99 US a month, and that support is also greatly appreciated. So all that being said, all the YouTube stuff out of the way, let's jump back into the build and let's take a look at how things go. Okay, fingers crossed that it comes out good, all right? Here you can see we're going to start building up the chassis of the Typhoon-K. There's two chassis frame rails that run the length of the vehicle. So you got two halves for each rail. It's pretty straightforward. You're just going to glue these together. They went together without any kind of issue. These pieces that you're gluing in here, they line up in a rather obvious way, and then they'll attach to the underbody of the vehicle when you install the chassis. Here you're going to be putting in these cross members and these pieces that will connect to the other frame as well. The catch here is I use the grid on my mat to try and keep things lined up, and otherwise there's nothing to really help you. You got to really make sure you don't install this cockeyed, otherwise you'll find out the wrong way later on. Here we're just putting in the parts that the wheels and tires will connect to. And all of this went together pretty straightforward. The horrible instructions didn't play too much of a part here. They played a part in it later, and I'll show you where. This is where the instructions didn't help at all. I had a hard time figuring out where those shock absorbers located into. The fuel tanks went together easily enough. You can't see much of it except for the part facing out when all is said and done. You just glue them, sand them, pretty straightforward. This whole front section that goes underneath the front end was horrible. The parts didn't want to fit together particularly well, and the directions didn't help in terms of figuring out what overlapped what. And maybe to other people it'll seem obvious, but to me, not so much. Here you can see that piece was kind of V-shaped. It was bent and almost broken in the box. So I had to kind of realign it when when I was installing it into that front end piece. So no drama there. It was just a matter of getting it lined up without it breaking completely in half. There's 2 clear pieces for each window, if you will. So there's that first piece, and you can see the one to the left has the 2 pieces already installed. So depending on how opaque you want them or how transparent you want them, be guided when you spray. I use Tamiya Clear Green to tint the windows. There's apparently some film you can buy that's pre-cut and pre-made for that, but it wasn't needed. And then fortunately everything's square, so it's pretty easy to tape everything up to mask it for painting. Same thing again on the side windows. There's 2 transparencies for each window. You glue in the first one, and then the other one will fit right on top of it. It's a good way to give the depth of the bullet-resistant glass. So it works, and just check your fit as you put each piece in. And now you can see here we've painted the chassis with Tamiya Flat Black. The body of the Typhoon is painted with Ammo by Miggs protective green. And it actually looks like a good color. I was pretty happy with the way it's sprayed. I cut it about 50-50 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. And even though it's acrylic, you can still do that. Here I'm repairing the rear section. This bin was lopsided. The whole part was warped, I think, and it looked twisted in the box. I tried to straighten it out. It became way more apparent once I had it installed and painted. So I went back, I shimmed it up with filled the gaps with clear plastic, sanded it all back, and then I'll repaint this whole section. And I just used slow setting CA to connect the frame to the underside of the vehicle, and it fit together well. Again, keep checking the fit of the frame against the underbody of the vehicle as you're building up the frame. This all went together fairly painlessly. And then I used Mr. Cement SP, which sets really quickly, just to kind of reinforce that. Well, I've had some build issues along the way, and they involved getting this chassis attached to the frame of the vehicle. If you look here, they want you to attach these fuel tanks and stuff and the front end to the chassis and then drop the chassis in place. That didn't work at all. That you got to get them snugged up against these rails here. And the first issue I had was getting these back ones on, and due to some warpage back here, this kind of cants a little over here. I fixed it as best I could, and then I had to reinstall these attached to the body instead of the chassis, and then I had to sand and repaint them. I got them as best as I can, and I'm going to do the same with these tanks. It's just easier to attach them after the fact. So honestly, if you build this, I'd recommend attach the chassis to the body of the vehicle, and then you can clip the tabs and insert these where they belong. you know, snugged up against here. So we'll see how that goes, and then we'll take a look at it. So as I just said, it's easier to install these tanks and everything after the frame or the chassis, which I use interchangeably. My apologies. It's easier to line them up with those rails on the bottom of the body once the rest of it's in place. Then it all kind of slots together pretty easily. You may have to trim the tabs in the back of the fuel tanks to get everything to fit. All the rest of this stuff, the armor that fits underneath the engine and stuff, that all went in just fine. Of course, the two frame rails are lined up properly, so everything dropped into place. Now what I've done here, and I apologize because I bought a new light for the workbench and it's much brighter than my old one, so it's hard to see what's going on here. I'm dry brushing the kit tire, which is vinyl, with some Ammo by MIG rubber and tires. So it's kind of a light gray. And I just dry brushed it to bring up the raised detail. Here I'm doing I painted everything and installed it, and then realized that Quinta gave you reflectors in the kit, you know, as 3D parts. So I went back, I scraped those off and repainted where I sanded down everything. Now I'm putting on a black oil wash. I'm applying it, and then I'm just going to remove most of it. I didn't want to do a filthy, heavily weathered vehicle, and I was kind of happy with the end result. The great thing about using oil paint to do a wash with white spirits, you dilute the oil paint with the white spirits, use it as a wash, then you can come back and clean up the excess with a clean brush with a little bit of clean white spirits on it, and just leave it where you want. I think you have much more control over this than a regular enamel pre-made wash. I just like it better. The decals went on pretty painlessly. It was just a matter of getting these large stripes to snuggle down over those ribs that you can see exposed. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going back and I'm putting a little more of a light wash over those rib areas where I've now applied the decals. And then the fun part, you get to take all that tape off. I was pretty happy with the way this came out. Kept everything. The windows came out nice and clean. I didn't have any overspray. And I'm sure my driver and his buddy were happy about that. Same on the sides, just pull the tape off, clean the transparencies with a little clean Q-tip. Here I'm putting those Quinta Studios reflectors where they belong. I think they're a nice touch. And then I put, this was like awful, putting these wipers in. For whatever reason, I just had nothing but problems because I'm a little too ham-fisted. I'm not that sensitive when I'm doing these fine motor skill tasks, but in the end they lined up fairly well, so happy days. And then I just put on the last of the loose parts. This overhang on the front windshield was one of them. And then I went back, I touched up the wiper blades because they look spotty there, but it's the light reflecting off the black, and I just gave them all another light coat. Well, that's that, and I'm honestly kind of happy with the way this came out. I did not have high hopes for this build at all, so I'm very satisfied with it. I got to use a couple of resin figures. I like the overall look of it. It's like I said at the beginning, you know, in part one, it's a purposeful looking vehicle, and it just looks very butch. So overall I'm happy with it. It'll certainly never win a contest, but For the most part, it went together fairly well. I found towards the end, trying to handle it while I was painting and putting the last parts on, like the hatches and the open doors, it was a little hard to maneuver it around without something falling off or breaking. I managed to crack the ladder in half because I was holding the model underneath and one of my fingers pushed against the ladder. So there you go. But other than that, the only qualm I had with this kit was the instructions are horrendous in some places. There's a little extra side view mirror that's supposed to go on the right side, and all they gave you was just this kind of vague arrow pointing at the side of the vehicle. I have no idea. I didn't even waste my time. I tried to put it on 2 or 3 times, and it just didn't go. It didn't look like the picture. So that shit went in the garbage. So I think if I would have been a little more careful in a couple of places, it would have been even nicer. Other than that, I hope you like it. So that's going to do it for the Typhoon-K. Next time we get together, we're going to be going back to an aircraft. I think we might be doing the Corsair next. I'm going to look at it. I've got a couple of aircraft projects I want to jump into. So till the next time we get together, thanks for stopping in. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up. That's how YouTube works. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's gratefully appreciated, all right? So until the next time we get together, take care, stay well, and I'll see you next time.